Hello to my kings, queens, and in-betweens. I'm Valerie, and welcome to my channel, The Bookish Valkyrie. So this vlog is going to be for the Full Moon Readathon, which is run by Jan Agaton. The readathon started yesterday, and I originally filmed this intro yesterday as well, but I forgot to attach my microphone, and I hadn't done any updates anyhow afterwards, so I just scrapped the first intro, and we're starting again today on the second day of the Full Moon Readathon. So the way that this readathon works is there are 4 creatures, each of which have 2 reading prompts and 1 activity prompt, and in order to capture this creature, you have to complete the prompts that correspond with it. So for right now, I am reading Paladin's Grace by T. Kingfisher for the slow burn prompt underneath Frankenstein's creature. Hey, Editing Val here. So I continue to say Frankenstein's creature throughout the entire video when I should be saying the zombie. So bear with me, please, and thank you. And it's definitely slow burn. We are at the 50% mark, and we haven't so much as had a kiss. There is a fluttering of hearts and nervous anxiety and that kind of slow burn where there is definite like physical attraction, there is personal liking. They are slowly getting to know each other. Neither of them believes that the other one is attracted to them until like very, very recently. That was kind of the benchmark that they hit at the 50% mark, which is where they had like a very near kiss. And so it's very cute, very sweet. I'm not sure how I would categorize this so far as like how cozy it is. It has cozy vibes, but there is a fairly gruesome death that occurs on page. There are other dead bodies that appear on page and big, sad, dramatic things that happen. The plot pace is good enough to keep my attention, but again, it still feels almost casual every day. I don't know that I'm explaining it very well, but if you've read T. Kingfisher's books before, you probably have an idea of what I'm talking about. Much heavier on the romantic overtones than you see in any of the other books that I've read from them. But I'm having a very good time. It is definitely keeping my attention, and I'll give you an update as to where I am on that. I'm also listening to Lucky Day by Chuck Tingle, and it's definitely started out strong. We'll see how it continues from there, and I will be checking back in with you again. I also have a book waiting in the wings, Bump in the Night by Lily Mayne and Nicole Knight, and that will be for the Bring a Book Back to Life prompt under Frankenstein, where you're supposed to read a book that has been on your TBR for a year plus. This book was on my TBR from the moment it was announced, and it actually dropped in April of last year, so I'm definitely well over a year at this point with this book, so that will get me closer to Frankenstein's creature, and somewhere along the way I'm going to do a puzzle or play a game for the Use Your Brain activity prompt. So we'll see how that goes. I am also later today planning on going to the arts festival in town. It's going from today through Sunday, and today is the art gallery walk. I will probably go back on Sunday with my family for our family activity of the month, and we'll see if maybe I can tie some of that into this readathon. Anyway, I will check in again with you soon and let you know how things are going. I have just finished reading Paladin's Grace. It was a very satisfying read. Definitely a slow burn. They had their first kiss shortly after the 50% mark, and they didn't get anywhere further until about the 85% mark, so I think that definitely qualifies it as a slow burn. And I have also started reading Bump in the Night by Lily Mayne and Nicole Knight. I am just in the very beginning stages of that book, but it's the second book in a series that I started a while back. Plus, Lily Mayne is one of my favorite authors, so I definitely am not concerned that I'm going to have a hard time reading this one. It is a little over 400 pages long, so we'll see how long it takes me to get through it. And I got through the first section of Lucky Day. The disaster that is mentioned in the summary has taken place. Our main character has essentially lost everything and is going through life in a fugue state and is really only barely getting by, surviving, but definitely not living her life. As for Paladin's Grace, I had a great time reading it. I have to agree with everybody. This is a perfectly balanced romantasy. It's not lacking in either the romance or the fantasy department. And I am very ready to pick up book number 2, which will be featuring Stefan's best friend Esteban. I won't really go into a lot of detail about what happened in the book past the 50% mark, because that's where like all of the plot really is. If you have picked this up and you're feeling like it's a little bit light on the plot, that's because the author is definitely laying in both the character building and the world building. I'm not sure what sort of pace you could look forward to in the next book, because there will definitely have to be some room for world building there as well, because we will be leaving the city confines and exploring the world a bit farther. So that marks off the first prompt for the Frankenstein card. Bump in the Night will be the second reading prompt, and I will either do some gaming by myself today or tomorrow, or I will be gaming with my husband when he is home this weekend. So that will take care of the activity prompt, and I will have completed everything under the Frankenstein card. I'm not sure which monster I'm going to go for next, because Lucky Day could work for prompts in all the other 3 cards. I think that it would fit under Death for Involves Death. It absolutely checks off that box. And then it would work for the Spider, because it's definitely going to be creepy. It's already a little bit creepy. And then it would also most likely work for Goblin under Trickster. Will probably involve a twist in the story. I've not read a horror book by Chuck Tingle that didn't involve at least a twist or 3. So maybe, depending on what I pick up after I finish Bump in the Night, should decide what my next card is going to be that I'm working on, and I'll keep you updated as I go. Hello, it is Friday and I'm headed out to a family barbecue, but I wanted to do a quick update before I forgot to. I'm about 60% into Bump in the Night, and I'm having a really good time with it. I honestly was a little surprised that I got that far this morning and last night. It is definitely a slow burn. They had their first kiss at 50%, although you might, it might be more like a slow start and less of a slow burn, because they spend the first 50% of the book dancing around each other, but once things get going, once they have their first kiss, things really take off from there. So a little bit slow burn, a little bit incendiary, I guess you could say. So yeah, 50% in is where everything starts, so far as them starting to change the dynamics of their relationship. In the very first part of the book, the main character is attacked by transphobes, so be aware of that and make sure you're checking all of your trigger warnings when you read books, especially books like this. Lily Mayne and Nicole Knight definitely have trigger warnings at the beginning of their books, and so make sure you check those out. I would say that everything I've read from either of them is both a monster romance and like a cozy dark romance, because there's always some very dark situations happening around them, but the vibes between them are just so cozy. Anyway, part of why the first half of the book is such a slow burn is because our human protagonist is recovering from that attack the entire time. Basically, our love interest is a sleep demon. He can come through to our world in that moment right as you're falling asleep, as you're switching consciousness from awake to asleep. And so as he was starting to pass out from being beaten so horribly, the sleep demon came through and rescued them and took them home to heal and nurse them. And nursing back to wellness is what takes up the majority of the first half of the book. And right now, they have just been attacked by a creature in the demon world. And Ivy, the human protagonist, is taking care of Lau, the sleep demon, and helping him with his wounds from that attack. And it's all very entertaining. Ivy finally gets to talk to Cody, who is the human protagonist from the first book in the series, and they also meet Lau's brother, Vari, and finds out that they actually know Vari in their human life. Tangentially. Anyway, it's all very entertaining and a good time so far, and we'll see where the next half of this book takes me. I'm also a bit farther into Lucky Day. Our main character has been recruited by a government agent whose job it is to investigate the disaster that happens at the beginning of the book. And so they are currently in Vegas and going through data, and the agent is about to reveal some pertinent information that you can't come back from to our main character. So things seem to be heating up with Lucky Day, and yeah, I'll let you know how things are going in a little bit. Hello, it is Tuesday. I have got a little bit further into Lucky Day by Chuck Tingle. The reveal of what is actually happening isn't too mind-blowing at this point, but we're still at the beginning of the story. The details are definitely different than I expected, but the situation is pretty much what I expected it to be. Sorry, just trying not to put any spoilers out there. The main character is more and more the embodiment of like where the Venn diagram of ennui and existential dread meet. She is a drag, an entertaining drag, but I would hate to be her. Uh, I'm hoping that we get a change up and some character development with her. It is Chuck Tingle, so I think I can pretty well count on that happening. If it doesn't happen, this may be the first Chuck Tingle book that I read that gets something below a 4. But so far, so good. And then I am about 20% into Paladin Strength, and I'm not seeing a lot of chemistry between the two main characters, but it's not completely not there. So we'll let it stew for a little bit longer, see how far we get. As you can see, I am not at home. I am at my friend Tony's house again, but I will be headed home later today, and I will probably listen to some more of Lucky Day on the way home, and we'll see how far I get. I'm not positive I'll finish it before tomorrow. Tomorrow's the last day of the readathon, so I don't know. We'll see if I manage to make my way through both of these books by the end of tomorrow. The last Patreon live with Jan Agaton is going to be tomorrow night, so I will definitely be planning on participating in that, and I'll give you an update then. If I don't finish either of these books tomorrow, then I'll do at least one last update once I do. Either way, it's been a great readathon, and I'm having a great time with all of the books that I have picked so far. I'll update you again later. Hello, it is Wednesday, and I am about 39% into Paladin's Grace, and I think like 48, almost 50% into Lucky Day. Ended up listening to music instead of listening to Lucky Day on my drive home last night, so I have really not read anything new since my last update on that book, but I have read more of Paladin's Grace, and our two main characters finally have their cards on the table so far as like who they are, what they are, and they are now figuring out what that potentially means between the two of them. It's funny because Istvan, our paladin, is absolutely besotted, but he is certain that she would not welcome his advances. He's certain that her standing as a nun, even though she's really just a lay sister, which means she hasn't taken any vows, but she is dedicated to Saint Ursa. So she doesn't, because she hasn't taken any vows or anything, she doesn't have any vows of celibacy or anything like that. But he is so bound and determined to be respectful of her that he's banning any possibility that she might welcome any of his advances from his mind. Like continually calling himself a pervert because he's finding himself attracted to her. And I find that kind of hysterical. And then on the part of Sister Clara, she is certain that because he now knows what she is, he knows her true nature, that there's no way he could possibly still be attracted to her. There's no way he would still find her attractive, even though he's made it very clear that he finds her intensely attractive. But now that he knows her secret, there's no possible way. So They're both being absolutely ridiculous, and generally speaking, that is the kind of thing that would drive me up the wall. But the way that it is written is so humorous and so clearly stupid to everyone but them, that I'm having a good time with it, and it's pretty clear that they will be sorting that out shortly. But yeah, that's where I'm at. Even though the readathon is ending today, I will still be updating as I finish these 2 books, because I hate leaving a book hanging in a vlog. So I will see you again later. Hello, it is Thursday, September 3rd. Obviously, a lot of time has gone by between my last update and this update, but I have had a very busy couple of weeks and very tired couple of weeks. So while I did manage to finish Lucky Day before the end of the month, so far as reading with my eyes went, every time I sat down to read, I fell asleep. So, and that is nothing to say about the book. I was actually at a really great place, and once I finally managed to sit down and read while I was rested, the pages turned themselves, and I had a great time finishing up Paladin's Strength. So let's start with Lucky Day. It has been a little over a week since I finished it, but I honestly think that that probably is for the best, because I feel a lot more settled in my feelings about it. I think with a book like Lucky Day, where while there is a lot of like horror and body horror, there is a lot of like unsettledness on an existential level. I think that having time to let this story marinate in my brain and let me, soak in how I actually felt about it, has led me to where I'm giving it a 4.75. I would give it a solid 5 stars, except that I just didn't have any character that I was like solidly invested in. The story is well written, the characters are well written, but none of the characters were the type of characters that I get invested in personally. The story I definitely was invested in. The pairing of this existential horror with the main character's identity as a bisexual woman and the erasure that she faces in the world, I think was beautifully done, and the point of the story and the identity of the character and how she moved through the world and how she felt impacted by the world as she's moving through it, I think really layered and built on the overall dread in the story. I have to say I was a little bit surprised. Towards the end, there is a death that I cackled about, and I did not expect to cackle about it. Like, there was a point where I knew that this person's death was coming, and I wasn't happy about it. But like, once it happened, the way that it was worded, the way that it happened was just too perfect, and I totally cackled. And I definitely reaffirm my stance that throughout the majority of this book, our main character is built of the stuff from the Venn diagram of where existential dread and ennui meet. And that is a large part of why I didn't really connect with her, even though she faces that part of herself head on by the end. And I really appreciate it, and I really enjoyed the way that everything was tied up, and the open way that the story ended with this sense of possibility, I think was wonderful and beautifully balanced. But like I said, I didn't really connect with any of the characters, so while I had a great time reading the book, and I could see myself potentially reading it again if I ever find myself in the mood for that type of story, I would never be going back to this book to revisit any of the characters. So that's why I couldn't quite give it a 5-star. However, it absolutely deserves that 5-star from anybody who will connect even a little more personally with this story than I did. So I absolutely loved it. Chuck Tingle is still on my list of auto-buy authors, and I will be picking up a physical copy of this book somewhere along the line to be a shelf trophy. I almost bought it through the Aardvark book club, but I ultimately decided to go a different way with my selections. So maybe if they still have a copy next month, I might get it through Aardvark. Otherwise, we'll see. I am going on vacation in a little bit, and I hopefully will be visiting some bookstores during that vacation. So maybe I'll pick it up there. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I loved it. Had a great time. Moving on. So I finished reading Paladin's Strength this morning, and honestly, that last quarter of the story is just jam-packed with action and twists and tension. So I would definitely not categorize this under cozy fantasy, even though the first 3/4 of the book had a lot of cozy moments. It still had a quick pace, which doubled or tripled really in the last quarter, and it was really satisfying. I very much love the way that it ended. There was some bittersweet moments. There are some deaths that are sad, but overall I love the way that all of the different strings of story throughout the beginning of the book came together in the last quarter of the book, and how many different strings came full circle. I am a little bit antsy to see what happens with Galen, because we don't meet up with him at the end, and I'm concerned as to what happens to our dear sweet boy with the bad dreams. So I am hoping that he is gonna be the next story. I haven't looked ahead yet, but fingers crossed. And I am also looking forward to seeing references or maybe even cameos from Istvan and Clara in future books. I would love to see their story unfolding farther down the line and in a more settled way than the go road trip on the precipice of potential death that this entire book was. So if you are looking for a adventure style fantasy, I think that this definitely fits that. The monster in this story was horrifying, so we've definitely got a touch of horror to this fantasy, and I am looking forward to seeing where this story continues from there, where it was really clear what the next story was going to be in at the end of Paladin's Grace. With this book, there is definitely an open plethora of ways that this story could be moved forward chronologically. So I don't know. I'm interested to see what T. Kingfisher does in the next book. So that is it for this vlog. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to, and let me know in the comments what your favorite type of horror is, as we are finally getting into the Burr months, and horror is definitely going to be playing a larger role in what I'm reading going forward. I have so many books I'm so excited to dig into. So yeah, let me know what your favorite type of horror is, and if you aren't feeling chatty, leave me a bat emoji in the comments just to let me know you are here, and I'll see you next video.
Stars shining bright above me. Night breezes seem to whisper sycamore tree. Dream a little dreamer.
Hello to my kings, queens, which is wrong. It's stop, because he is certain that he is so bound and determined to be respectful. Stop, like from as and so, like it's so it was a blah, 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 blah.